Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to another session of Breaking Into Data. I'm Aaron Falus, founder of Promotable. So for those of you who don't know what Promotable is, we're a workforce accelerator focused on closing data science gaps. To do this, we do events like this, where we bring in practitioners who have real experience doing all this kind of stuff every single day. So we have conversations, AMAs, full presentations. We can talk about a variety of topics. And so tonight we've got Anshul, and he's got a lot of deep experience. Right now he's a director of data science at Home Partners. Obviously deep experience with other like Fortune 500 type companies, smaller companies. So we're going to pick his brain a little bit. And then for everyone else, please get your questions ready because we're going to dive in, and then also, for everyone, feel free to drop your questions either into the comment section, or if you can find where to click, raise your hand for the mic, we'll be able to actually let you ask your question live. I'd love to be able to do that for as many people as possible. So that said, we'll hand it off. If you want to just give a brief intro on yourself, and then we can dive into Home Partners, and then kind of take it from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So my name is Anshul, and thanks, Aaron, for giving me this opportunity to come to this platform, Promotable, and share my insights. I can start about myself. So my background is chemical engineering. I'm from India, and I did a PhD in chemical engineering. So I started with that. But a lot in my PhD was in the area of operations research. So I was focusing on that and building algorithms and on the operations research side, applied to chemical engineering problems. And as Aaron mentioned, I worked in multiple companies. So I joined Dow Chemical. From there, I worked there for 5 to 6 years in the R&D group. Then I wanted to switch domain and wanted to experience data science or operations research in other industries. I moved to United Airlines. I was there for 3 years. And then I wanted to experience a smaller company, like a startup or a small business setting, that how they work. So I moved to Trunk Club, which is in Chicago, similar to Stitch Fix. I don't know how many people know about that company here. They were acquired by Nordstrom. And then from Stitch Fix, I moved to Home Partners, where I am currently. So everywhere, like I've stayed in some data science role or operations research or analytics role, and learned a lot through my career.
Awesome. So I guess kind of first off, tell me about Home Partners. So I know they're a little bit of a smaller company compared to where you're at before, but tell me about what they do, and then if we can talk a little bit more about the kind of data science-y problems that you guys are solving, if you can share any of that kind of stuff with Home Partners.
Yeah, so let me start on that. So Home Partners, it was founded in 2012, and it's in the real estate space. So companies like Zillow, Redfin, and these are like some of the big names, and Home Partners is like a small business. So they are a single-family homes owner and operator. And the company was started with a vision when they saw this gap between like home ownership and people who want to like buy homes, but they're not able to get opportunity to buy homes in good communities, in desirable communities with like good schools, amenities, or people who want to like buy homes, such as like northern suburbs in Chicago, for example. And a lot of it was happening because of their income status or wealth status or like other challenges with mortgages. They were not able to get mortgages, or they'll get approval only for like low price homes. So the idea was to create a platform so that they can come to Home Partners and say that, hey, okay, I can't buy a home in this good community, but can you go and buy this for me? And we can then rent this house, and then within the next 3 to 5 years, we can build our credit history or the profile, which will allow families to be eligible to get a mortgage, and then they can buy that same house from Home Partners. So this program is called lease purchase, or lease to own, or right to purchase. It has all these different names. It's kind of a try before you buy, if you think about it. So as I said, like you can live in that house, you can rent it for some time, for 3 to 5 years. And during that time, you can buy that house. If you don't end up buying, if you decide to move out, if the families don't like, then the house gets posted as a regular rental home, and Home Partners looks for a new renter on that house.
Which is kind of cool. It's kind of like leasing a car, if you will, where you have the option to buy it out. But for most people, you do it for 3 years, you return it, and then you get a nice new car.
There are no like miles limitage.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, if you drive your car a lot, then leasing's terrible. But if you live in the city and it's mostly parked like mine is, then it's a better option, which makes sense. And then tell me a little bit more, like like how big is the team? Like what kinds of different roles are on your team?
Yeah. So that was the program that I mentioned. Home Partners is very different compared to like other real estate players. But the problems that we're working on, they're very similar to the problems people might be working on, say in Zillow, Redfin, or some of these online platforms you see. So we have currently 6 people in my team, and including me becomes 7. That's a data science team. And then we have a bigger analytics team. We have like data engineering and software engineering and business analysts all under in that analytics team. And we have 1 opening, so there's like 1 more position open. So in terms of like the problems that we solve, if you see the lease purchase program that I talked about and the entire pipeline, there are 3 components in that. So one is a person or the family who's applying to the program, which is the potential resident. The second part is a property itself that Home Partners is going to buy. And third is the pricing, the rent that Home Partners is going to charge that resident. So we have problems, and like our data science is in these 3 verticals at Home Partners. So on the consumer side, we have to assess and understand like what's the risk associated with that family or person. Like, okay, we can't go and buy a home for everyone. They're saying, okay, come and can you help me buy home, or I'm going to rent it out. So what's like the credit risk, or whether they'll be able to pay rent on time or not. So like assess that, okay, are these worthy residents for the program or not, so to say. On the property side, when we're going to buy properties, like which markets, and within those markets, which areas we're going to buy properties. So market selection, market analytics, market intelligence. And then on the property side, the property valuation, which is like the core for like Zillow, Redfin, they're always like competing, or House Canary, that our valuation is more accurate. So we also want to do like a fair market valuation of the property before we go and buy. And the third part was the rent pricing, which is the entire rent pricing algorithms we have developed for both lease to purchase as well as when properties go on the market, when people move out. Like this is a high level.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, I'm a big nerd, so these kinds of things really fascinate me. And it's like how much do you have to charge in rent to make sure that if that person doesn't actually buy the house, that when you put it back on the market, you're able to at least not make a loss. But obviously, you're not going to be around too long if you're not making profits. But it's kind of like Then the other question is that comes into my mind is how many data points, like how many houses do you need to lease or sell in order to get an accurate enough model?
That is a really good question.
Obviously, it's not necessarily one that maybe you figured it out, maybe you haven't. Obviously, I don't want to ask your proprietary modeling, but I'm a nerd, so that's where I always kind of go into.
No, I think, and some of this information is public. So when Home Partners started, as I mentioned, 2012, I think this group, like data science, in some form or shape was formed, I think around 2016, 2017, I think around that time. And Home Partners didn't own a whole lot of houses there, so they were relying a lot on external data or like external benchmarking to do any data-related work. But now we have a portfolio of, I think we just last week bought the 20,000th home. Home Partners, so that was on list. So I think now we are at a stage that we have started gathering and having enough data set, which statistically makes sense, and you can start making meaningful predictions and meaningful insights out of it.
Which is really cool. So kind of switching gears a little bit from business model to team, because obviously you've gone through a lot of that process yourself in terms of changing roles and moving on, but you also manage a team. Like what do you look for in like someone who is a new data scientist? Maybe you're fresh out of a master's degree or a data science boot camp or what have you. What kind of stuff do you think is like super important that you need to know now versus maybe is like a nice to have or you'll learn on the job?
Yeah, that is a good question. And I may not know everything like what somebody will need to get a job. I can talk about like first my experience and like through that what I learned. So I was talking about that I started in the field of operations research, which as the name says, is operations. So a lot of the problems are that we work on are on the operations side or like say planning, scheduling, and manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of traditional problems are there, and it's more like this area called mathematical programming, which is like linear programming, nonlinear programming, which is very different from traditional machine learning or statistics, the problems that work on. So when I was moving out of Dow Chemical and coming into United and trying to make that transition, so I personally never attended any boot camp. I haven't gone through any boot camp. So I don't know exactly what is taught there, but I think I've seen through resumes and talking to people, typically those are like really condensed programs. A lot of information is given in a very short amount of time compared to like a master's or PhD where generally you have more time to absorb a lot of information. So I think that is one of the constraints of the bootcamp program, that you have a lot of information you have to absorb and then you don't get much time to learn. So like I personally have learned a lot of things through like books and journal articles. Mm-hmm. So and I still do that. So I think that as a habit I would like propose that anybody who's in the data science field or wants to get into, like although they're getting a good understanding and lay of the land through a boot camp or maybe through master's degree, but the field itself is so huge and vast, and there's like so many things and so many things that have happened before and so many new developments that keep on happening every day. It's hard in a way to catch up and be cognizant of and aware of what all the developments are happening, but also like in terms of understanding the core concepts in the field of data science. Sometimes you need to spend time and need to spend your mind to really wrap your head around, okay, what is the concept behind the particular algorithm you're looking at or particular data that you're looking at. So it's more like what I'm getting at is that breadth is good, but try to strive for depth. Because I think once you have depth, either in a few algorithms or a few areas, you can always like, as a tree, you are rooted and you have like strong roots, you can always branch out and learn more. But having like strong understanding of core concepts is really important, especially what you're learning in bootcamp. Like they give you some flavor, but understanding and trying to see connections between different algorithms or different pieces is really important. That's one thing I would say. And another thing I would add is, maybe two more things I'll add. So one is like, besides the traditional machine learning and AI piece that we learn, it's always good to fall back on the mainstays like the probability theory and statistics and hypothesis testing and general statistical measures. Because a lot of time, the problems that you work on in industry, they'll be like quick answers that you have to give to stakeholders, and they'll be coming to you with some hypothesis that, hey, I'm seeing drop in certain metric, and I believe this is why it's happening. Can you prove or can you show? Do we have any confidence in that? So a lot of times it's just like a quick analysis, either with visualization, but if you can prove with statistical theory or probability or distributions, that actually chimes a lot with people, and they take a lot of stock then in what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So always rely on the basics and foundations. And the second thing I want to say was also look for non-traditional algorithms, like such as Bayesian models or the world of the Bayesian world or Bayesian inference. Typically, it's not used much, but I think it's very fascinating, and the theory sometimes could be very useful. Graph models is another thing which usually is not taught, but I've seen that using graphs, you can approach the similar problems in a very intuitive and new way. I mean, I've had a couple of examples where we could solve problems using graph models in a different way, effective way. Time series is another thing. Not much is taught on time series models, but that is like one of the key things in industry, because people want to like forecast, like, hey, what's going to happen next month? How is my volume going to go up, or metrics going to go up or down? You need some kind of forecasting understanding for that, and a lot of times it's not covered, but I think it's really important.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, which of those like core concepts do you think? Because obviously, you look at your fair share of resumes, right? I know we talked before that you always have like you have like an internship program, right, where you bring folks on, and obviously now you have an open role, right? So it's like, is there something that you think right now kind of that most people it might be considered a core data science topic, but most of the resumes you've seen kind of lack in one of these areas?
I won't say lack, or I guess it. So sometimes it also becomes challenging, I guess, for the applicant or people who are going into the data science space, because they don't know what the company or the interviewer or the group is looking for in terms of the role. I guess if they can get some understanding of that, it's good, because then you can at least tailor the resume that way. Because like one company might be more focused on AI specific roles, and they want people to showcase that how much of AI knowledge they have. Whereas, like, for example, I was talking about probability and statistics, so like at Home Partners, or even like United Airlines, or even like Dow Chemical, for them, they're not there to use AI methods. They are still into like traditional data science, statistics, and the machine learning space. So for them, having those core concepts of foundational knowledge is more important. So they test people on that, and they look for those things in resume, that how much people have demonstrated knowing core concepts and skills, besides the regular buzzwords.
So basically, like, do your homework, understand, kind of ask what kinds of questions, what kinds of business questions your companies are looking at. Because you're right, if you're an airline, it's how do we, I mean, really, it's how do we save as much money as possible and cut our costs as low as possible while keeping a good product out there.
Yeah. So, and you don't have to like restrict to like a one-page resume. Always like be like vocal about showing depth in the resume, that, hey, I have done this, I've done that. And like, even if you want to elaborate more on the resume, if it goes to 2 pages, it's fine. Like, some people like to see that, okay, this person has done it and has a lot of depth.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you really just do your homework, and then you're able to actually kind of have a better understanding of what to do. What about so I get, that's kind of how to prep is one thing. What about once you're in, like, what's the difference between someone who might be an intern on your team versus someone who is a junior member of the team? Like, what kind of difference is that, or what does that look like to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So intern are people who are like still studying or not full time. For them, the focus or their mindset is like they are learning technical stuff, but they also want to see how it applies in an industrial setting. And the time frame is short. It's like a 3 or 4 month project, so they can't spend too much time on understanding business or how business works. So they want to like grasp parts of business, but they also want to like showcase how they can apply technology to that particular business problem. So in terms on our team, when they come, we kind of design projects for them in a way that they can finish within 3 to 4 months with some meaningful contribution, and which gives them an idea or some understanding or some exposure to the business, while also gives them some opportunity to make or to feel that they have accomplished something. So it's not like, hey, just go and run these spreadsheet tasks or like something trivial, which they don't then feel that, hey, okay, my time wasn't valued. So we want them to like have a good experience. So interns it's a totally different mindset. For full-time people who are joining like as a junior data scientist, our main focus is that, hey, we have hired you, we know, we have confidence in your technical capability. It's not that you have to come out and showcase, like you have done that part in an interview. The part the message we give them is that, hey, focus on like learning the business and try to get this part, or try to get experience more on like the real life problems, or like what are the challenges a business is facing, and like just try to understand how stakeholders work, how people in different teams think, some of the soft aspects that you won't learn in college or some other boot camp. I mean, people have done that. They know technical concepts and all. And also, we tell new recruits that maybe like you can take a breather and spend 3-4 months understanding the business, understanding the problem, try to build that perspective, because that is really helpful. Because in real world, like problems don't come in a cookie cutter shape. Like somebody will come that, hey, my metrics is going down, tell me what to do within a month. And so the important part is to take that open-ended statement or request from someone and convert it to a technical problem. And I think that does require practice and some time. Um, and I think that is really key. We try to test that also during the interview process, but I think that is really key that, hey, are you able to connect the math with the business? So if you can practice on
that part about connecting, like turning that question that you get into something that then you can actually do with data science, is I think is a kind of an undervalued skill set, but super important. It kind of leads into like that next question that I had, which is like, is there something that you like to ask in your interviews that kind of sets people apart? Like when you're looking at it, you're like, hey, I know, within 5 minutes that, when someone talks about this, that they, are more prepared for this kind of role.
Yeah. Two things we try to test for during interviews. So one is, so like a lot of resumes that we receive, a lot of people have done similar kind of projects, or they have given similar kind of skills. So I talked about depth. So first thing we want to test is like, okay, how much this person has spent time just not knowing the superficial, but like, have they gone deeper into something? So we'll like probably ask someone, hey, what's your favorite algorithm? Like pick up and tell us more about that. If someone says, hey, I like support vector machine, we'll ask, okay, what's the loss function of support vector machine? Like what goes on behind the scenes? So we try to understand, that's one part, that, hey, has someone gone above and beyond just beyond the project work that they have done, or how much understanding they have. And second thing is we try to assess them through like questions or case studies or problem solving questions during the interview. So like we sometimes give, I think that we have changed now, so we give them take home test, like an open-ended problem, just to see like how they approach a problem, like an open-ended data set. What do they see in that data? Like how are they visualizing that? What kind of problems they're seeing within that data set? So like open-ended, just to see how their brain works. And also the case study part, which I was talking about, that can they take an open-ended problem and see how they can formulate it, say as a machine learning problem or as any math problem.
Yeah.
Can they show that connection or not?
Yeah, no, that's super important. We're actually, ironically enough, next week also have an event focused on that exact topic. Kind of like before, it's fun to talk about Python and like all these fun technologies, but before you even get there, can we set this thing up for success? Like, how do we turn this stakeholder question into something that we can actually do? I'm going to start diving into some questions that we have from the audience. So, folks, if you have questions, feel free to either request the mic or drop it into the chat here, like Tree just did. And I'm so sorry if I did mispronounce your name. Please correct me if I did, or just let me know. But they asked what tips you'd have for someone who is looking at. Awesome, I pronounced it right. That's thanks for jumping on that. So yeah, they're in their bachelor's program. So I'm not sure if it's towards the end or towards the beginning, but they're looking at a career in data science and kind of want to know what they should be doing while they're still in school to prep.
That's a good question, and I would say, I was talking about internship earlier. So that's one thing. I've seen like a few people. So from University of Chicago, they have worked with us, few students. And they come and they spend summer, and sometimes then they'll spend like the fall or spring time frame also as a part-time person working on a problem. Some companies offer that platform that they can continue to work with students while they are studying and doing courses. So if you get an opportunity like that, definitely go for that, because I think industrial experience while you're studying, it definitely helps. And I think during the bachelor stage, it's not like the problems you'll be working on will be like extremely challenging. It would be like simpler tasks. But I think it will give an opportunity to connect real life problems with what you're studying early on. And we're hiring one person. I mean, we hired him. He is going to start soon, but he did that way. Like he spent quite a bit of time, his bachelor's and master's with us. He kept coming back. He could have gone to some other company, but so that helped him. Um, and so I think this is one additional thing someone can do. But other than that, like bachelor's courses, they're out there. So I was talking about like diversifying and also studying like some of the non-traditional algorithms like this operations research or graph theory or time series. So if you know you're going to go in this area, then try to soak up all the knowledge you can get through the bachelor's program. I think it's the best time to, I mean, of course, it's the best time to like enjoy and do other things. But in terms of like you're getting 4 years of 3 to 4 years of exposure to different fields and different courses and different professors. So make hay when sun shines.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I would add to that as well, I'm so full disclosure, I'm not a data scientist, but one thing I will say is that if you're still a student, you can reach out to people, email, LinkedIn, try and get a coffee meeting. It's there. You have opportunities as a student that you wouldn't have as especially as you're still a junior, right? So you're not even asking for a job at this point. You're literally just saying, "Hey, can I learn about what you do?" Or like, "I'm working on this project at school. Can I interview you for this?" And it's scary to just put yourself out there and raise your hand. But if you do that and do that a few times, you'll be surprised by the people who actually respond, even though they're like senior director level. You'll be shocked. At least I was when I finally someone hit me over the head enough times that I was like, okay, it's time to actually do it. You learn a lot. You form really good relationships, and could actually help you point you in the right direction.
Yeah, give me a second. Actually, my room is getting really hot. I'm getting like all sweaty. Let me remove my
no worries. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
For anyone else, oh yeah, Richard, great point. If you can shadow someone, that's always awesome.
Yes, I chose a bad room to be here. It's like sunny here. It's getting hot today.
It's all good. I have the window open, so if anyone hears an airplane, that's why. But for the same reason. So Raina just asked, what's your favorite part about the company culture at Home Partners? And what would be the best way to prepare for an interview with your team?
Favorite part about company culture. So one thing which smaller companies are like different than bigger companies with bigger companies compared to bigger companies is so when anyone is like joining a startup or say Home Partners, they join for a particular reason. Like they know that they're joining this company either for the cause or they want to work in a smaller company. So in a way, they are motivated that they want to like do good work, and they are not bothered by some of the other aspects or some of the other conflicts that can exist between people in other bigger companies. So that way, I think that's one part which plays pretty positively in smaller companies, and the culture that they build, that everyone is motivated and everyone wants to collaborate and help each other, and they are focused on company's growth. And there are no like, I mean, of course, there could be like differences of opinion and people can discuss different things, but there is no some negative spots in the culture, so to say. So people have this great positive spirit, and they are connected in a way with this common mission of the company. So I think so that's a good part. Like I was at Trunk Club, pretty like awesome, like fascinating culture there. Pretty open, transparent. Like there's no lack of transparency, I would say. I think so. That's actually one of the major things where culture starts going bad in a company, where people start holding off on communication, or there's like opaqueness, and people are one part of the company doesn't know what the other part of the company is doing. So that it doesn't exist in smaller companies, partly because of that it's small and there are few people. You can always go to them. You know who is doing what, so it's easier to get information or like talk to people. But also like people want to help each other. So that's my favorite part about the culture here. Like it's pretty open and transparent. Um, and a good way to prepare for an interview with our team. It's as I mentioned, we in our team rely a lot on like basic probability and statistical concepts because a lot of our work is in that like shorter request space. But at least it's not just because of our work is there. We do quite a bit of like model building and long term projects. But we believe that if a person has shown depth in these areas or can think in these terms, then they can like all the other concepts they build upon these core concepts. So we basically test on that.
Yeah, so you're looking for people who can grow, who like they're technically good enough. But the question is like, do they care about the mission? Is that interesting for them, right? Because at the end of the day, like money is really important, but if it's just money, you're not gonna it's not gonna work, right? You have to actually enjoy what you're doing and enjoy the problems you're solving.
Yeah. I'll add one more thing. I was talking about home partners and company culture. One thing which is good about bigger companies like United or Dow Chemical is because they are big and they have been in their business for so many years, like hundreds of years. So people who are in the company and they have also like spent a lot of time. So there's a lot of experience in the company, and there are several people even like in analytics space or data science space. There are like several teams in either different subgroups or different parts of the company. So there's an opportunity to like learn from each other, which exists more in bigger companies versus smaller companies. So you can always learn from somebody else's project, or somebody else might be an expert. You can go and learn from them, or even just to learn business. There's like that opportunity. And also with like if you want to be in that particular business, there's like a lot of business domain knowledge, so that can help you grow as a professional in bigger companies.
Yeah, that actually leads to one of the questions I was curious about, because obviously you've had like the Dow Chemical experience and then the Trunk Club experience, and but now you're at even a slightly smaller company. Um, from so I think you talked about kind of what company culture looks like. What about even on like terms of like the problems you're solving, or like is there anything else that you think is substantially different? I mean, I get like at a startup, like you have more, like everything you do matters a lot more than like if an analyst at United messes something up, like someone might get a cheaper flight, but that's like worst case scenario. Right? As someone who took advantage of said mistake at one point, not from United but a different one, it's nice, but it's like if you mess something up at like 100-person company, like you've got even bigger problems maybe.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good point, Aaron. So in bigger companies, this is another advantage. You get to work, even if not work, you get to see very different kinds of problems and a large breadth of different problems where data science can be applied. Like for example, when I was at United, I worked in revenue management, which is just one of the core pillars, which is like pricing and like how the prices change over time. So a lot of that part, but then a lot of operation side also, like airport operations or flight attendants or United Club, baggage, maintenance. So the space of opportunity is huge and the breadth is immense. So you never run out of problems. There's like always something new or something challenging data science wise to work on. In smaller companies that could get limited. Like, so when I was in Trunk Club, pretty much all problems we were working on were in recommendation system space, and that was pretty much it. So either it's a box that you're creating of clothes, or if you're creating an outfit. I mean, there could be some differences in data or the final outcome, but the flavor was like all recommendation system.
It's the same thing. It's your recommendation engine, and which is cool, but after a while, I could see how that gets boring.
Yeah, and so like Home Partners has some breadth, like because of like different areas of operations. So that way there's some diversity, which is good. But yes, but that could be one thing. Like smaller companies, it could be limited. Um, Bigger companies, you get more opportunity and problems.
Absolutely. Other questions, guys? While we wait for some of the folks to drop some questions in or request the mic, one thing that I think could be interesting for folks who maybe are already in either a data analyst or data science job and are kind of thinking, well, how do I take that next leap in my career? Like, what does it look like? I'll give you an example. Like, as someone who, like, when you're early in your career, you're the one who's being interviewed, right? It's like you're trying to figure out what to do, but when you're on the other side of the table and you're that person like talking to 100 candidates, you learn, for me it was like, oh, that answer is terrible, like I'll never use that again. It's like you gotta actually learn so much. Like what does that leap look like, or kind of like what's like the different perspective that folks who are hoping to make that transition to like that kind of higher level in their career, what does that look like?
You mean like transitioning from like the data science to like a manager role, or?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good question. And as you said, Aaron, like not everyone wants to do that because they're like the manager or like leadership role. It's a lot different, like versus if you're working as an individual contributor. And many people they want to like grow technically or stay in that capacity. So first thing is that if people can not establish, but like maybe figure out in their mind that, hey, do they want to go in that on that path or not, or they want to stay technical? Because the early on you start on that, the better it is. And what I mean by start is like, say if you want to go on the managerial path, you would indicate to your manager that, hey, okay, this is I see as my potential career. Can you help me with any opportunities? And what they're looking for to make someone a manager or go on managerial path is that, hey, is this person can I trust this person on the challenges of this company? Like, is this person vested into this business or not?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, like, are they like how like, are they growing some passion either about the business or about the problems or challenges? Because they have to demonstrate at some way that, hey, they are thinking about the company, either thinking about the group or thinking about the like how they can help just beyond delivering a model or delivering a solution to a problem. So like either they're helping other team members of the group, either technically or in some other way. Like, are they showing this knack for leading projects? Are they showing knack for like thinking not just about the question that was asked, but like beyond? That, hey, okay, how are they interacting with stakeholders? Like, I can always, the stakeholder can come and we can always create a model and do analysis and give it to them, and then you're done. Or you can always like reach out to them and ask more questions that, hey, okay, what else do you see? And are there other problem areas where we can focus, or like how I can take the solution and maybe apply to other areas of the business? Like, are they networking in the company or not? So like, yeah, so if you're building a network or not. So you have to do a lot of those activities to not just like showcase that, hey, okay, I could be, I'm growing on this path, but also like for a growth perspective, and also to gain perspective that, hey, whether this works for me or not. Um, some of this is also like people manage interns, summer interns, or part-time students to demonstrate that, hey, they can also work with other team members, they can delegate work, and they can manage with delegation. Because a lot of what changes when you become a manager or director is like you're not actively building a solution, but you're more guiding someone towards a solution. So can you guide someone or not? Like a lot of it becomes like mentorship and teaching. Not like you are doing work yourselves, but helping others deliver on what you can deliver yourself. So
That's a good point.
yeah, can you build that capability as well as demonstrate that?
Yeah, you're right. It's both, demonstrating and showcasing to other people, but also you're building that skill set yourself. So you're not just doing that one individual little thing. You're looking for opportunities to support the broader business. Bring on Linnell's got a question for you, so I'm going to hand her the mic, and she's going to join.
Hello. Thank you so much for presenting today. We really appreciate all of your insights. One of the questions I actually had was, throughout your career, obviously you're busy working, and what did you do to continue to maintain or grow your skill sets? And how do you find, or what are some tips you could provide to us in regards to finding kind of that balance between work life and making sure that you don't burn out while you're trying to continue to grow?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I have a 3-year-old son, so I do have to like balance time quite meticulously. It's like he consumes a lot of my time. I would say so. A lot of it is driven by like passion and interest. Because if you are interested in something, you will find time for it. Otherwise, you'll never find time for it. So a lot of that, like at least in my case, I actively try to, I won't say manage, but try to like find time for things. Like for example, when I was learning new data science concepts, or even like today, I wanted to like try out something myself. Like I wasn't like that well versed in Python, so like I'll take out time and like do something on my own in some free time. So it's basically like you have your work time, and of course some of the other non-work activities that you're doing, like reading or playing or like working out. But like it's always like the remaining hours that you have, like how you want to use them and how you want to like best plan those hours. And sometimes like it was like naturally for me, I gravitated towards like, hey, okay, I'm working on this problem. I want to like do this, try this out. So I don't know if it really answered your question, but it was like more, if you're passionate and if you're motivated, then you'll try to find time for that.
Oh, for sure. I appreciate that. Is there any resources that you use that you use to continue growing, or were there any blogs or books that you found really, really interesting?
I can share some books actually. Maybe I can send it to you, Aaron. You can send it to participants. Yeah, few books I found that were like really fascinating. They were helpful for me. Some of them are like too technical, but I was always, maybe because of my background, I always like, I wanted to build my knowledge bottoms up. So I always look for like more math heavy books. But I think some books I know a couple of them are they're good. I think Medium is really good. Medium or towards data science. I think there are a lot of good articles. I read them even now. And back when I was like growing in the data science space, I was reading Medium and towards data science articles. KD Nuggets is really good. They have a Twitter feed also, but I think they also provide really good blogs or articles, at least to start with. KD Nuggets. What else? I'm trying to think. I think these are some of the ones I could think of right now.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, towards data science is always solid. And I mean, honestly, it's like sometimes like the Medium articles become a little bit repetitive, but it's one of the things where I think once you recognize that they're being repetitive, then you also potentially learn some of those topics already, which may be a good feedback loop.
Another thing I'll add is like I'll typically like there'll be one topic I'll be working on. Say I was working on natural language processing or text mining. So it's, to your question on like how to balance work life. So maybe you can like focus on one particular topic and like go and explore what's out there on that through internet articles or books, and then should focus on the other one. So that way also you can build a lot of knowledge in one particular area.
Yeah. Just at the same time.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely it's sometimes when you're first learning something, it's very easy to say, "Oh, this is really cool. This is really cool." Kind of down those rabbit holes. But I agree. Being able to go in depth on something is super important.
Yeah. One thing also I learned, like in the beginning, it could feel a lot overwhelming that, hey, there's like the field is so huge and I'm just starting in such a narrow corner. Like, will there be a day where I'll know a lot of these things? And like, it could be daunting actually to start. It was daunting for me as well, but I think slowly with time, once you start learning things, then initially it's a little steep, but it becomes smooth afterwards, and you start learning a lot of concepts, and it starts becoming pretty natural for you to like see, understand it, and quickly grasp that, oh, okay, this is what this particular thing is talking about, and then you then sail through it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a question. Here we go. Let's handing over the mic.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going? You want to give us a little background, name, what your kind of background is, like what do you do, and then also obviously your question.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Rina Haswa. I'm working at Maven Wave Consulting, and I'm working in the data science team. So we kind of have changing work all the time. And then when I was in school, I studied, I got a master's in data science, but I did my undergrad in applied mathematics with a minor in AI. So my question to you, since at your company, it sounds like you have like a very niche product. I was wondering, like once you finalize a model, does your company ever acquire new features, like new types of data, or even do some more feature engineering to come up with an idea later?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thinking of a particular example. So one thing, I was talking about the rent pricing earlier. So the rent pricing engine or the rent pricing algorithm that we have built, when we didn't have enough homes, say 2-3 years back, and when we built the algorithm, a lot of it was driven by some of the external market data and just understanding the averages in the market, and maybe like creating a few clusters, and like the algorithm or the pricing engine was quite simple. But now, like over time, like last 2 years, the last few years, we have like acquired new homes and we have like a lot of data. Now we have actually built machine learning models to understand how the costs will vary for each of the house. So we have actually gone from like a region level, like clustered model to a more like property level model, because now we have data and now we can think about these additional features and how like property level features can impact rent pricing. So we have actually gone more nuanced now. This is on the lease to purchase side. Similarly, like on the non-lease purchase, which is the regular side, when residents move out, we're looking for new tenants on the market. We are incorporating a lot of like market information now in the rent pricing. Earlier, again, it was like simpler algorithm. So that is actually pretty much in everything we're doing. As we're getting more data, we are trying to make our models more sophisticated every day.
Yeah, it sounds like your team has more than just one model to work on. I have another question. So do you guys ever focus on like ML ops? I saw that you guys are running in cloud platforms. Are the data scientists also responsible for optimizing your cloud operations as well?
That's a good question. Not yet. I mean, we are using cloud infrastructure to deploy models, but not a whole lot of time is going into like optimizing that. We are optimizing in terms of the deployment pipeline so that it's lean and there's not unnecessary items built into the deployment pipeline, so that it's quick to deploy and the response times are faster. But we haven't like really the traditional machine learning engineering. We haven't like done that. That hey, can we build models using the cloud infrastructure services directly? It's still like on the simpler side.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the question. And now, last question of the night is going to Brad. So Brad, thanks for dropping the question in here. Brad has been in data analysis for a while. It looks like he just completed a data science course, a part-time course. He's just asking. So he's currently employed. He's thinking about moving on to a different company and is working on his portfolio, and is curious how should he go about building that? Should he use kind of case studies or examples from his current company, or use something different?
I believe so. The question is like, okay, should Brad stay in the same company or like think about building portfolio by going to different companies, right?
Yeah, he's thinking about looking at other opportunities and wants to just build up his portfolio, so he's got something to show. And just what do you think is most valuable to put in there?
Yeah, that is a good question because it can go both ways. Like if within the same company you're getting an opportunity to work on different kinds of problems or build that data science portfolio, then I would always encourage to like stay or spend at least a couple of years, because it also shows to somebody who's recruiting that, hey, you're not a like job hopper, or you're not like hopping from companies to companies, but you also like think about the company and the business, and you want to like stay and understand that. So that's like one angle there, that hey, like you, because then it can give an indication that hey, okay, I hired this person, what if this person leaves after 6 months and I'm hiring again?
Yeah,
So
sucks.
yeah. So that thought can creep up. So at least like if you're demonstrating that hey, I can stick around with the company, so that's one angle. But then there's also like you can always say that in during the interview that hey, like why you were switching. It's always like people will always ask this question like hey, why you want to join this company, or why you're switching now. Especially if you're like switching within 6 months of your previous company, this question will definitely come that hey, like why you're switching. So then you can always elaborate that hey, I'm working on this one problem, I'm building my portfolio, and it's all about like if you're interviewing, then you also want to ask that hey, like what are the opportunities I'm getting in this company? Do I work on different problems? And you explain the mindset that hey, I'm moving because I want to broaden my exposure. So will you give me this opportunity or not?
Yeah, the other thing is also like depending on like if you're in the same industry, keep using the opportunities they're giving you, right? But if you, I don't know, if you're in real estate and you want to work at Starbucks, we'll throw something out there. Maybe try and look for, doing something that has something similar.
Yeah.
At least from like an industry perspective, or honestly, like from what I see, it's like if you like, some people ask like, what kind of project should I do? And honestly, just don't do something that everyone else is doing. Or something that's like interesting for you. Like when I talked to someone else, it's maybe a year ago, and he's someone who's an analyst at I forgot which company, but basically he's into sports. He is a baseball guy, and he made some sort of like really cool analysis, kind of like creating a new statistic essentially to predict something. And at least you can kind of talk about it, and it's not like this. Like no one wants to see your Titanic data set from Agile. So if you can do that, you're at least showing that you can solve the problems, you can find data, you get the workflow, and it's not just like something that like you copied from someone else.
Yeah, I agree. Like I moved from Trunk Club to Home Partners. I moved like in less than 1 year, so they were curious that hey, okay, why you're moving in less than a year? So yeah, I mean, I explained that hey, like this opportunity is here, and now I want to go into the real estate space, and also like it was all recommendation systems there, so I want to like broaden some more.
Yeah, and that's it's always a curious question because I love kind of you're on the other end of that, right? Asking people those questions, because yeah, I mean recruiting sucks when you're doing like you spend tons of time, you might be a couple hours a day interviewing like final candidates, right? And then if they leave in 6 months, start that process all over again, and then you can't do the thing that was on your backlog. So
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, so I could feel for my manager in Trunk Club. Yeah, they would have.
but also it's really, I mean, I love hearing kind of like the answers that you provide, where it's like, hey, I really am just like tired of doing the same algorithm over and over and over again, and I want to do something new. At least it makes sense, right? It's like I'm looking for somewhere I can grow, and then, but also I think if you phrase that with, looking at this company, I understand you're working on these 4 different huge problems, and so like, I think there's an opportunity that like, I'm not going to be bored because there's all this other stuff to look at.
Yeah, one more thing I'll add is it's also good in a way if you're interviewing with several companies, or if you spend time at a company, maybe 1 or 2 years, you may want to interview just to see that, hey, what is the market today? Are my skill sets out of date, or what kinds of questions interviewers ask these days, and am I missing something in my set of skills? So that could be a way to assess where you are with respect to market, and you can do it for assessment, or you can be serious and you can look for opportunities, and that way you can use it as a learning opportunity there. Because many times interviews, you may not succeed. I mean, I failed several interviews, but they were actually more useful because they taught me that, okay, where I went wrong, what more where I can hone my skills. So it helps that way as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're in data science, it's all about optimization, right? And I feel like we fail interviews like this. I mean, I had the same experience where it was I get this and I'm like, oh, now I know how I fucked up. And you have all these ways of optimizing, and you figure out the perfect answer, and you kind of take it from there. Well, I think this has been really helpful. Thanks for everyone for asking really, really good questions. Stick around. We've got coming up actually in both end of the month, we've got data scientists from Talend. And then the week after that, we've got a VP from Hartford. So if you like insurance stuff, those are problems that are interesting for you. She's super cool, hired lots of people, and really is I think a good person to talk to. And then for people who are looking for new roles, I think Home Partners has a role open. So I already dropped his LinkedIn in there. So feel free, guys, to reach out, and then we'll take it from there. That said, if anyone also is interested in connecting with me, feel free to go find me on LinkedIn. And also, if anyone's interested in any of the classes that Promotable does, we do have a data science bootcamp, an immersive course that is online for now until we can get back to being in person. However, that is income share agreement based. Next cohort is starting in September. And we're wrapping that into 1871. For those of you in Chicago, you'll know what that means. If you don't, basically it's just the place to be for Chicago Tech. But the reason I think it's really important is we talk a lot about networking. And honestly, for me, this is how I've met tons and tons of people. Honestly, I may have met one of your bosses at Trunk Club, ironically enough. And so it's just a really good way of kind of putting yourself out there. And then, of course, you have mentors, and then we work with companies as well for that final project, because I think we talk a lot about portfolio, and I've seen a lot of really terrible demo days. And what I want to do is, for folks who are in our program, I want to make sure that you have something that's actually not just your Titanic data set, but hey, I've seen real world stuff. So you can have those kinds of conversations. So feel free to reach out. If anyone's interested, go ahead. It's learndata.co. And then feel free to email me, aaron@promotable.io. And with that, the last thing I'll drop into the chat here is if anyone wants to see wrong thing. Well, that's LinkedIn profile. Keep doing that again. Dropping our YouTube channel in here. So this talk is going to be recorded. It'll be posted here. But for anyone who wants to go and check out some previous talks, if you missed something, it's all there. So that said, thanks a lot for taking time on a Wednesday night, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.